More right-leaning accounts on Wednesday were posting about Sydney Sweeney than Barack Obama. This is a true fail from the Trump messaging machine.
What did she do to commit treason?
John,
was she part of the Durham investigation as well?
We don't have the time.
Oh, did she kill Jeffrey Epstein?
We can't prove she didn't.
Yeah.
Someone should ask her where she was on that night. And was she the orange blob spotted in the CBS video?
No, because we know she's wearing jeans. Welcome to Pod Save America. I'm Jon Favreau.
I'm Dan Pfeiffer.
Packed show today, Dan. Liberation Day Part 3 is upon us, and we're officially on taco watch. My life. We'll also talk about Trump and Republicans getting mad at Josh Hawley over trying to ban stock trading in Congress and in the White House. Trump volunteering creepy new details about Epstein recruiting girls at Mar-a-Lago. Stephen Miller's ad campaign for his secret police force. Democrats getting ready to fight back on redistricting. And Kamala Harris's big announcements about the California governor's race and her new book. Then you'll hear Tommy's conversation with Colorado Congressman Jason Crow, who happens to be in charge of recruiting House candidates for 2026. But let's start with some news on the rapidly changing politics around the war in Gaza. On Wednesday night, for the very first time, a majority of Senate Democrats voted for Bernie Sanders' proposal to block the sale of $675 million worth of U.S. bombs and guns to Israel. Among the 27 Democrats voting yes were senior establishment types and longtime supporters of Israel like Jeanne Shaheen, Jack Reed, Patty Murray, and Dick Durbin, who said, quote, "For many of us who have devoted our congressional careers to supporting Israel, it is impossible to really explain or defend what is going on today. Gaza is starving and dying because of the policies of Bibi Netanyahu." There's also growing opposition on the right from Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massie in Congress to media types like Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, and a lot of the younger MAGA influencers. New polling from Gallup shows that just 32% of Americans now support Israel's military action in Gaza. That is an all-time low. That includes just 8% of Democrats and 25% of independents. Netanyahu's favorability is at 29.52, his worst ever. The Trump administration seems to be getting the message, kind of. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff traveled to Jerusalem Friday to meet with Netanyahu, presumably to press him on a ceasefire and to let in more aid. The administration also announced new sanctions on Palestinian political leadership, and Trump did write on Truth Social, quote, "The fastest way to end the humanitarian crisis in Gaza is for Hamas to surrender and release the hostages." I'll also note that, according to the Associated Press, in just the last 24 hours before this recording, at least 91 Palestinians have been killed and more than 600 have been injured while trying to get food, which is still just trickling into Gaza. Dan, what do you make of the shifting politics on Gaza among elected Democrats?
Before I get to that, I just want to say that I thought the conversation that you and Tommy and Lovett had about this on the Tuesday podcast was one of the best ones we've had on this podcast.
I don't think Twitter agreed, but that's okay.
That proves my point.
Yeah.
One, I thought it was just powerful, emotionally resonant. It was smart. You could feel the anguish that you guys felt about what's happening in Gaza to the people there and certainly the children there, and your rage against the way the conversation about this was happening. I just thought it was very powerful. And I just want to say I certainly share your anguish. That is impossible to not think about, impossible to imagine children or anyone dying that way in such a preventable way. And your rage at at how this conversation is happening, that there are people who can look at starving children with trucks of food not that many miles away and not think that the first thing you do is figure out how to save those children. And there is, like, you guys went through this, but there's you can debate and have a conversation about what policies got us here, who is responsible for this, what role Hamas plays, and certainly stipulating that Hamas is a terrorist organization who committed just atrocities on October 7th and many times. But it is also very clear that Israel can do more to help people. Like, they have the power to do it. And just in watching the conversation, the thing I'd say is there's nothing wrong with holding a U.S. ally like Israel to a higher standard than Hamas. And that's all that you guys are doing. That's all that these Senate Democrats are doing. On the politics, which does feel very pedantic to talk about in this moment, but on this vote, if you think about the more than a half century of near bipartisan unanimity on Israel, and particularly military support for Israel. These were must-passed bills that always went through with just rubber stamp through. So the fact that half of the Democratic caucus voted against it is shocking. But then when you think about what's happening in Israel, and you look at the polling that you cited, that 8% of Democrats approve what Israel is doing there, it's shocking that the other half voted for it, right? And the politics are moving here in one direction. And I think it is because of Netanyahu. It's because of what is happening in Gaza. And that there is a place for people to come back if Netanyahu were to go, or you saw a different approach from Israel in Gaza or anything else. But right now, I think this is the beginning, not the end, of a fundamental shift in politics in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, I mean, I was personally surprised to see that many Democratic senators vote with Bernie. Pleasantly surprised, particularly in light of the conversation we had just had. And, we got a lot of people, obviously, I sort of made a half joke about Twitter, but, people we know, we're friends with, have been talking to us since then, and people who are very supportive of Israel. And one thing I've noticed is it is very hard to bridge the two realities that I think some people in good faith believe. And the challenge here is, I remember since the beginning, since right after October 7th, there was, you can't trust the Gaza Health Ministry because that's Hamas, and so you can't trust the numbers out of there. But it's like, at some point, we've reached a point now where you've got, Israeli Holocaust scholars calling it a genocide, Israeli human rights organizations, it's at the top organizations calling it a genocide. You've got like this U.S. Green Beret, Purple Heart who fought ISIS and the Taliban, and he's telling his story. But every time someone comes out and tries to offer evidence that this is happening, that there's slaughter, that Israel is not upholding international law, there's always some like ready excuse, right? Which is like, oh, well, the Green Beret, he was fired, and so we shouldn't trust him. And well, that's just the Gaza Health Ministry saying that. And there's always like some reason that we're not supposed to trust the reporting, what we're seeing with our own eyes on the ground. And I just like, I guess we could all say that we will only believe the Israeli Defense Forces and the Israeli government. But I don't know why anyone should be satisfied with only believing that, even though there are plenty of international organizations, Israelis, Israeli press, other reporters, international reporters, humanitarian organizations, the UN. Like, I don't know how many other sources of information we could have before people who just believe that we should continue the course that we're on and give Bibi Netanyahu a blank check. I don't know how many more sources of information we could have that are more credible before people can say, oh, maybe what I've been thinking the whole time isn't quite right. Maybe Israel is at fault here, or at least much more at fault than I previously thought. Like, it's really tough. And like, yes, Hamas is a terrorist organization. And, Trump's truth about this, like, Hamas could release the hostage and end this. I read that and I'm like, again, do you think Hamas is like reading social media, and Hamas is like who are like trapped in a tunnel somewhere, fucking cowards in a tunnel, don't give a shit about the Palestinian people, don't give a shit about Israelis, don't give a shit about human life? You think they're going to be like, oh, well, people are calling on us to release the hostages, so I guess we'll end the war now because there's been more pressure? Like, they're a fucking terrorist organization. That's what they do. And so, like, I don't know. I understand that, like, how evil Hamas is. Like, of course I understand that. But we don't fund Hamas. We don't send checks to Hamas. We don't do weapon sales with Hamas. We do it with Israel. And so we have some leverage over Israeli policy as Americans. And it's our tax dollars that are going to a government that is causing this death and causing this starvation. So I don't know. But I do think, like, look, I mean, and you were there for this, I think back a lot to, just from the political side of it, the Iraq War. And at the time, how many Democrats were like, sure, we're going to vote for the authorization in Iraq, and then everyone regretted their decision later, and now everyone looks back on it, and even the people who were very in favor of the Iraq War were like, oh yeah, obviously it was a catastrophe. Well, okay, obviously it was a catastrophe. did we look back and think about what lessons we've learned? And are we going to apply those lessons moving forward? And obviously, there are a million ways these conflicts are different. But I just think from the political side, of course it is uncomfortable to be called a terrorist sympathizer, to be called weak, to be saying that you don't want to stand up for allies, or that and I get that. But I'm proud of the 27 Democrats who were willing to take that vote. And all I'll say about the Democrats who voted no is, I hope they get there. And I hope Republicans get there too. And I hope we can keep persuading them. And this is not, some people are saying is this a litmus test you guys are having now? And are you driving people out of the party? It's not that at all. It's this is what I believe should happen. And that's my view. And I also understand that this is a big tent party and it's going to have people with different views. But I think if our goal is to end the war and our goal is to save lives, then our job is to say what we believe and try to persuade people to think that. How do you think Trump sees this? And do you have any hope that pressure from his base that is growing leads him to take a tougher stance with Bibi?
I worry that Trump obviously does not understand what's happening. He is reacting to, as you guys talked about on Tuesday, he's reacting to the images he sees on TV. One day he'll hear from Marjorie Taylor Greene and think they should do one thing, and then he'll hear from in that poll, it is 70% I think, of Republicans who support Israel's actions in Gaza, and go the other way. No matter what he believes, what I worry about, even if he were to be convinced that the right thing to do, for whatever reason, political, moral, was to pressure Bibi to do something different here, I worry that Bibi is both tougher and smarter than Trump, and that it'll take one phone call for him to just fold, and then where Trump will end up is someplace even worse. Just finish it faster and get these things off TV.
Yeah, I worry about that too. He doesn't have he both doesn't understand the situation, and he's not a details guy, and he has the attention span of his favorite platform, and so he moves on to the next thing. And so unless something's in his face, I worry about that as well. Before we move off this, you should check out the Pod Save America YouTube channel. Because Tommy just hosted a debate this week between our friend Mehdi Hassan and Jeremy Ben-Ami of J Street about how Democrats should approach Israel going forward. And it was a great conversation. It's very much worth a watch. So check out the Pod Save America YouTube channel for that. All right. So this episode is out on Friday, August 1st, also known as Trump's self-imposed off-delayed deadline to set tariff rates with the rest of the world, also known as Liberation Day Part 3, the final reckoning. Trump said on Wednesday that this time, he really means it. The deadline will not be extended. No taco. And then on Thursday, he announced a 90-day extension for Mexico. There's only been a handful of other deals, most of them very light on details. All of them include new permanent taxes of anywhere from 15% to 50%, maybe higher, who knows when we get the final numbers, on the stuff we buy from overseas, paid for by some combination of American companies and American consumers. Those new taxes, along with rising inflation that's been ticking back up again, are why the Fed announced this week that they will not be cutting interest rates, earning Jerome Powell another Trump tirade on Truth Social, in which the president called his Fed chair stupid, among other things. Nevertheless, White House trade advisor Peter Navarro believes that starting a global trade war that will lead to higher prices deserves global recognition. Here he is on Fox.
A lot of people, Maria, talk about Donald Trump for the Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm thinking that since he's basically taught the world trade economics, he might be up for the Nobel on economics.
All right, here's the question. Can one person win the Nobel Prize for Peace and Economics in the same year?
Well, John, I did a little research today.
Good.
I wanted to see if it was possible for Trump to win not one, not two, but 3 Nobel Prizes. Because I thought he might have a chance at a Nobel Prize for art for his
for the doodle,
naked girl pubic hair signature
for the pube drawing.
piece.
Yeah,
for Jeffrey Epstein. Alas,
big one.
There is no Nobel Prize for visual art. So he will have to settle for these 2 Nobel Prizes.
It is incredible that they think he's the one teaching the world about economics, as he has, being the leader of the wealthiest economy in the world, just dragged the entire rest of the world through this trade war that is just going to hurt everyone. Us, them, the whole world just gets a little dent in economic growth because of Trump's trade war.
Did you see Caroline Leavitt's very desperate plea for Trump to get the Nobel Prize today at the briefing?
No, I missed that.
She basically argued that he has negotiated a trade deal or a peace deal every month since being president.
Where was the peace deal? Is it in Gaza? Is it in Ukraine?
Well, he takes a lot of credit for the India-Pakistan situation.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sure.
Iran, obviously, there's very peaceful resolution there.
Very peaceful there, yeah. No,
it is just so funny that MAGA is turning the Nobel Peace Prize into a participation trophy.
And how many of them know it's just a couple Norwegians just sitting in Oslo, just trying to figure this out? Who are not, I bet they're not MAGA, but who knows? Who knows?
You just don't know these days.
Let's talk about the trade war and Liberation Day, or whatever the fuck we're calling this. Once we are past this August 1st deadline and the trade war news recedes from the headlines, how much do you think Democrats should focus on tariffs in the lead up to the midterms next year?
Okay, I think we need a narrative. And I want to be very clear. I'm about to offer a stage direction. These are not words I want people to say.
This is what we have to say now.
This is important. The broader narrative is that Trump, because of Epstein, his crypto scams, his $1 billion free jet, the golf courses he's building all over the world, the tax cut for all of his friends, is part of the corrupt political system that is raising your costs, making your life harder. He promised you, and then a data point underneath that narrative is costs. Right. There's a poll out on Thursday from the Century Foundation, which found that 83% of people believe that the cost of eating dinner has gone up. And you see that in all the data. People believe prices have gone up because they have gone up. Partially because of inflation, partially because of Trump. But Trump promised he was going to reduce your costs. And he hasn't done it. He's made them worse. And even worse than that is that he raised your costs and he cut taxes for the very corporations that are raising your prices, right? I think that's sort of, it is about cost of living. It's about, that is a data point under a larger argument about Trump as part of a corrupt political system.
In that same poll, nearly half of Americans are worried about their current ability to pay their rent or mortgage. Nearly 2/3, 64%, worry about their ability to pay an unexpected medical expense if one should arrive. Nearly half of all Americans believe they would have difficulty paying an unexpected $500 bill without borrowing. And notably, 6 in 10 believe that after just 6 months on the job, Trump administration has negatively impacted their cost of living.
I'm doing this off the dome because I don't have my notes in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it's 24% of Americans spend 3 hours a day worrying about costs and financial security. And I think it's 47% maybe who spend at least an hour a day on that.
Yeah. No, it is. And it was a fascinating poll. Yeah, I think, you did. Good job. Good job. You nailed it. This was a YouGov poll that the Century Foundation helped conduct. I think that almost every day, there's this whole debate over Trump's economic plan and the Medicaid cuts, and if they go into effect after the midterms, is that going to be an issue? Well, for Bill aside, and I only want to put it aside for this conversation. Obviously, we're going to talk about that from now until the midterms. These cost increases are going to be hitting all the time. And I think the challenge is to make sure that every time you see a headline about a cost increase, people know. And we can connect the dots for people. Like Procter & Gamble just announced 2.5% price increase on their products. They have all, Procter & Gamble, gigantic company that makes a lot of the toiletries we use and cleaner products and everything else. Walmart, Target have already announced increases on school supplies, clothing, baby items, Adidas, on clothes and shoes. I mean, it's already happening, and we just need to remind people every day and look, we're going to have a whole bunch of headlines about this because every time a company decides to jack up prices, we're going to be able to talk about it. And if there's not a headline about it, then when we notice price increases, people should talk about it.
I mean, we're going to go through, this podcast has 9 different topics we have to hit because it's been an insane 3 days of news.
Yeah.
But one of the things to think about is why I did that sort of narrative at the top is the way you combat the flood the zone strategy or just the insanity of news in the Trump era is you need an overarching narrative that you can fit all the things in. You're not trying to shoehorn in or try to fit a square peg in a round hole, but as a party, we need to pick a story first and then a message second.
Yeah. On that note, one more piece of notable economic news. Speaking at a Breitbart event this week, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Trump's new Trump accounts enacted in his economic plan, which give every baby born from now until 2028 $1,000 to be invested in index funds, might serve a long-time right-wing goal. Let's listen.
In a way, it is a backdoor for privatizing Social Security.
Oh, a backdoor, eh?
What? So the Bush era Hill staffer in me wants Democrats to jump all over this. But what do you think? They tried to clean it up. Bessent tried to clean it up. Caroline Leavitt at the briefing tried to clean it up, and she's like, no. When he said in addition to Social Security, it's like, what?
No, he didn't say that.
That's not what he said. He said privatization and backdoor. It was very, very clear.
We should absolutely jump on this. We remember in 2022, cuts to Social Security and Medicare were a big part of the Democratic message that worked. And we should use them again. And I think the cuts to Medicaid make these more believable than even they were back in 2022.
Yeah. And I think what he actually meant there was, yeah, you're going to have these savings accounts. Eventually they could be retirement accounts. And when we someday cut Social Security, this will be fine. This will be your new Social Security. Because
I take him at his word that he wants to privatize Social Security.
Of course they do. Yep. Of course they do. Speaking of investments, it's time for another corrupt date.
Ooh.
Corrupt date.
I have to say, that was better handled than the one on Tuesday. We're getting better at the sting there. It's really...
It's only taken us 12 opportunities to do it. And here's the good news. We could probably do a corrupt date every episode until 2029.
So this one comes courtesy of Senator Josh Hawley, whose bill to ban stock trading by members of Congress, the president, and the vice president advanced in the Senate thanks to all the Democrats on the committee voting yes. All of the Republicans, except for Hawley, voted no. Then, one very important Republican voiced his displeasure. Trump raged on Truth Social that the bill would be bad for the country, a win for Democrats, and he called Hawley a, quote, second-tier senator.
True.
Hawley then chatted with Trump. It's so funny that Trump just does this on Truth Social, by the way. It doesn't like call Hawley and be like, hey, what the fuck, man? You know, he just puts him on blast. Can't even call him first. So anyway, then Hawley talks to Trump on the phone, and then he told reporters about his conversation with Trump. And he said that the president said that he's for the stock trading ban, but he was angry because people had told him the bill would force him to sell Mar-a-Lago and divest of all his assets, which isn't true, only because of a carve-out in the bill that exempts Trump from this requirement.
But even that part's not true, right? Like, he would not have to sell Mar-a-Lago.
No, but you do have to. I think the after the Trump administration, the next administration, and then future senators and representatives would have to divest of, I think, any kind of equity holdings.
Interesting.
You know, which is why Ron Johnson, Rick Scott were very upset. They're like, they were saying, you know, this is punishing success, and this is going to discourage wealthy people from running for office. What a shame that would be.
Oh, no.
What do you think about this? Did Trump just need to make sure nothing would interfere with how hard he's working to profit from the presidency?
Yeah, I think so. I think he believed, apparently incorrectly, that the spigot was about to be turned off for his many, many schemes to profit off the presidency, to make money at taxpayer expense. And because he is both corrupt and a moron, he reacted without knowing what was actually in the bill.
And originally the bill included the president and vice president, and then they had to do some compromise where they said, okay, we can include the vice president and president, but only if it's not this president and vice president.
Of course.
So, because like these Republicans in Congress, like they're not even protecting themselves in this bill. They just wanted to protect Donald Trump because I guess that's their most important
And then they voted
job.
against it anyway. So what was the point?
So like Mike Johnson has said that he's for this, so we'll see. I mean, it advanced out of committee. I guess you could imagine a situation where Thune puts it up for a vote if Hawley's for it and you get a few other Republicans and then it would pass with Democratic and Republican votes. Maybe? I don't know. What do you think the prospects are of this passing?
You know, it's a tough no vote, but it really depends on it. Now, it depends on how much Trump cares now that he knows he's exempted from it. If he does not care, then I think it really could pass, because if you are a Republican senator who's up this cycle, or just someone who has ambition for something in the future, voting to allow yourself to keep doing insider trading, not a great vote.
Hasn't stopped them before.
Well, they've benefited from it not coming up before. That's the thing. They've kept it off the floor, I think, for years now.
It is wild, though. You just mentioned some of this. It's like we also learned today Trump is building a ballroom on the White House, $200 million, because he's always wanted a ballroom. He's good at ballrooms, he said, so he wants to build one in the White House. $200 million for that. And
it's going to be privately funded from donors who can have yet another way to buy access with Trump.
What do you think? Middle Eastern autocrats or tech oligarchs?
I think,
or some combo of both.
Why do you have to choose?
Or oil tycoons.
Crypto guys facing indictment. There's a whole list of people.
Arms dealers. What else?
It's basically a pardon silent auction.
Also, while the Hawley thing was going on, Chris Murphy offered an amendment in the Senate that just said Trump can have his plane, his $1 billion plane that we all have to pay for from Qatar, but he can't take it with him when he leaves office. Because if we're going to pay, the taxpayers we're all going to pay $1 billion to retrofit this fucking plane from the Qataris, then guess what? The next future presidents, we should use it for a little while instead of giving it to Donald Trump as a fucking keepsake. Yep. All the Republicans voted no. Didn't get a single Republican vote.
Amazing. For what? Like what reason?
What's
so
the reason?
A party favor when he leaves?
What? It's unfucking believable. You know what? We can't win this midterm.
We need a whole. We actually need a whole separate podcast called Corrupt Date. Corrupt Date.
Pod Save America is brought to you by Policy Genius. Talk about a milestone that made you rethink your priorities. Maybe it was buying a home, having a child. That'll do it.
Yeah, that'll do it.
That'll make you rethink your priorities. Policy Genius makes finding and buying life insurance simple, ensuring that your loved ones have a financial safety net they can use to cover debts and routine expenses. You can compare quotes from top insurers and find coverage that fits your needs and your budget. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies starting at just $276 a year for $1 million in coverage. It's an easy way to protect the people you love and feel good about the future. Policy Genius allows you to compare quotes from America's top insurers side by side for free. Their licensed support team helps you get what you need fast so you can get on with your life. They answer questions, handle paperwork, and advocate for you throughout the process. Policy Genius understands that life insurance isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. They provide clear options for coverage amounts, prices, and terms, eliminating guesswork and ensuring clarity. Look, no one wants to think about life insurance. No one wants to go through the process, but it's super important. It's important for your family, and Policy Genius makes it really, really easy to do. Secure your family's future with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/crooked to compare free life insurance quotes from top companies and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/crooked.
Pod Save America is brought to you by Hims.
Yeah, it is.
Helping men rise to the occasion for years now. ED can get you down in more ways than one. But with help through Hims, things can start looking up. Get a boost in and out of the bedroom with access to personalized treatments, including daily options for more spontaneous sex.
Who doesn't want that?
Through Hims, you can access personalized prescription treatments for ED, like hard mints and Sex RX plus climax control.
Oh, so important.
Hims offers, I don't like this play-by-play. Hims offers access to ED treatment options that cost 95% less than brand names. New Sex RX plus testosterone support includes Tadalafil for better bedroom performance and zinc for testosterone support. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works for you, if appropriate. Just take out an intake form on their site and connect with a medical provider who can determine if treatment is right for you. The process is 100% online, which means no office visits and no pharmacy lines. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. If prescribed, your medication ships discreetly to your door for free. Look, guys, this isn't hard. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/crooked. Find ED treatment that's up to 95% less than brand names at hims.com/crooked, hims.com/crooked. Actual price will depend on product and subscription plans. Featured products include compounded drug products, which the FDA does not approve or verify for safety, effectiveness, or quality. Prescription required. See website for details, restrictions, and important safety information.
So one thing Donald Trump inexplicably can't stop talking about, Jeffrey Epstein, who he just keeps offering new details about every time he's asked. Trump got a few questions on Air Force One this week about his claim that he kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago for poaching some of Trump's employees, not because he was a, quote, creep, which is what the White House had originally said. Here's Trump trying to clear all that up.
Mr. some of them.
Were some of them young women?
Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes. Yeah.
What did they do?
In the spa.
Jobs in the spa.
Yeah, it's people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Largo. And people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Giuffre?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know. None whatsoever.
Unbelievable. We originally had just a short clip of that, but I really wanted everyone to just hear the whole thing because his answers evolved. First of all, he's like, I shouldn't say. Did he hire young girls? I shouldn't say. But everyone, yes. The answer is yes. The answer is yes. I should say. And from the spa. By the way, one of the best spas in the world. Everyone should know. But then he stole her. Spa, no spa, don't take it. It's like unbelievable. So just a reminder of the timeline here. Virginia Giuffre got a summer job working at the Mar-a-Lago spa when she was 16. In 2000, Ghislaine Maxwell approached her at the spa and offered her a job with Epstein, who then sexually abused and trafficked her until 2002. The same year, by the way, that Trump was quoted in New York Magazine saying that his, quote, good friend, Jeffrey Epstein, quote, likes women on the younger side, no doubt about it. It wasn't until at least 2004 and maybe later that Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago and ended their friendship. Giuffre died by suicide in April, but her family responded to Trump's latest comments with a statement to The Atlantic asking if Trump was aware of Epstein and Maxwell's criminal actions. He was asked that today, Thursday, at an event at the White House. And he sort of said, no, I don't know. Just kind of brushed it off. Feels pretty serious, doesn't it?
Yeah, he admitted that he knew about a 16-year-old girl being, quote unquote, stolen from his spa. After that happened, he remained friends with the guy, praising him in a magazine, talking about how he loves young women for another couple years. And it's just, given how close they were in the 90s, the parties they went to, the creepy event with the calendar girls where they brought all these people to Mar-a-Lago for a party and the only two party attendees were Trump and Epstein. It's just impossible to imagine that he did not have some sense that something sketchy was going on. And it did not bother him. He stayed friends with the guy for another 4 years. And that the falling out eventually is not over there is no evidence to suggest it's over Epstein taking girls from the spa or anywhere else, the world-class spa, obviously. It is believed to be the reason they stopped being friends is a dispute over a Palm Beach real estate transaction.
I have a few questions.
Maybe I can answer them.
One is, how did Donald Trump come to know about the employment status of a young woman, a young girl who worked as a locker room attendant in his spa at Mar-a-Lago? Is he deep in the HR records?
Details guy.
He knows that. So first of all, very bizarre that he knew this. Second of all, did he think that, was he under the false impression that Jeffrey Epstein owned a competing spa? That Jeffrey Epstein
she was hired to be his personal masseuse.
Yeah. And so he knew that a 16-year-old was hired from Mar-a-Lago to be Jeffrey Epstein's personal masseuse. And then he just kind of sat on that and then called Jeffrey Epstein a great guy who likes young women. And then next time he quote unquote stole, we're saying stole now, like it's like
that's Trump's,
property.
Those are Trump's words, yes.
Right. Next time he did it, that was too far.
What is critical here is that Trump is admitting to contemporaneous knowledge of her being stolen by Epstein. What would have been believable is he just found out years later because she eventually sued Epstein and Maxwell. And her case got a lot of attention in the news. So he could have learned that, and his name comes up in the court filings in that case. So he could have learned, if he were to say, and I learned about this years later, that would be very believable. Just the fact that he's saying, in the year 2000, I knew that Jeffrey Epstein, quote unquote, stole a 16-year-old from my spa, and I told him not to do it again. He says that he knew at the time that he was going after these young girls. We don't know.
How could he tell him not to do it again if he found out much later?
Exactly. That is just a huge critical admission on his part because he is a dummy and he can't figure out how to get out of this because he can't stop lying about it is the thing. Because he clearly is so afraid that about whatever is in the Epstein files, about something that is out there. Whatever it is, I don't know what his fear is. I don't know if it's rational or not, but his behavior is of a man deeply paranoid of the truth getting out.
It's wild. And I don't know where it goes from here. You know, Maxwell's lawyer said she wouldn't testify to Congress now unless she gets full immunity, which the people in Congress were saying they're not going to give her full immunity for that. So now we're not getting testimony. We're probably not getting testimony from her in Congress, which is public. But, we still got Todd Blanche, Deputy Attorney General, sat down with her. No one knows what that conversation was like. She's asking for a pardon. I don't know. I don't know what else, where this goes from here.
Well, I mean, Trump is going to keep it in the news for sure.
That's right. All you have to do is ask him. He'll give you new information.
I mean, there is, as you guys talked about on Tuesday, there is now documents running around which have all of the, or at least some of the Trump mentions in the Epstein files out there. Will those leak out at some point? Will the infamous birthday letter to Jeffrey Epstein leak out? We actually see the potentially Nobel Prize winning drawing. There's just a lot more here. There's a lot of threads to pull, and Trump will and when the Congress comes back, Democrats will once again push for a vote to compel the release of the Epstein files.
Yeah. So Trump has had most of his administration working overtime to distract from the Epstein scandal by cooking up a laughably dumb conspiracy about Russia involving Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, all his favorite deep staters. Only problem is the whole thing is so convoluted and confusing that even Trump can't keep up with it now. Here he is answering a question about Kash Patel allegedly finding a trove of documents in a burn bag somewhere in the FBI.
Mr. President, Kash Patel reportedly found burn bags of Russiagate materials, and I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
He said what?
Burn bags of Russiagate materials that
don't know
FBI
that.
supposedly found.
I don't know that. I don't know what you mean by that statement. Say it.
Bags full of Russiagate
A
documents.
burn bag. I thought you said appointed a man named Burn Bag. The whole thing is a scam. It's a scam set up by the Democrats, and they love talking about it. But I would like to see people exposed that might be bad, and we'll see how that all works out. But it's getting to be very old news. You know, if they had anything, they would have done it the week before the election because they were losing by a lot. If they had anything, they would have done it. They controlled the file. The Democrats controlled it. Comey and all this, sleazebags, every one of them that you read about all the time. And I guess they've got some problems now having to do with yet a different scandal, very big one.
Once again,
he gets a softball served up to him, undoubtedly by some MAGA influencer hack at the White House, about Kash Patel, his new deputy, now that Dan Bongino has his mental health days, like a deputy burn bag. He gets the question to him. And what does he do? Right to Epstein.
Cannot help himself.
I was saying this to love it. It's like the opposite of like the communication strategy advice, like the central advice, like always go back to home base here when you get the question. Home base is Epstein files.
Yes.
It's like we're cooking up this Russiagate conspiracy for you. Barack Obama's committing treason. You got to go to that. You got to go. No. He's got to go right to Epstein.
He cannot help himself because he can't stop thinking about it. Once again, a man deathly afraid of transparency here.
Also, I will not get too deep, I promise, into the burn bag. The burn bag
please
theory.
don't.
But basically, to believe this, right, which is that there's a whole bunch of documents that were in a burn bag somewhere in the FBI that John Durham, after he conducted an investigation into the origins of the Russia investigation, who John Durham, appointed by Bill Barr, worked for Donald Trump in the first Trump administration, that John Durham left these incriminating documents that would incriminate Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and all the rest of them in a burn bag in the FBI, would not burn the documents, just wanted to leave them there, thinking that after the Biden administration, Trump would return, and then someone from the Trump administration would find the documents and expose the lie.
Yeah, seems credible.
This is what we're supposed to believe? We're supposed to believe? By the way, if you don't know, a burn bag is what you have in the White House and other agencies when there's classified material, secret material, and you need to get rid of it. You don't want to throw it in the trash because that's not very safe because anyone could go picking through the trash. A shredder's not good enough. You put it in a burn bag and they actually go burn it, right? So I don't know what John Durham was doing. I don't know what Kash Patel's talking about, but I don't really think it's revealing anything new.
Well, I think if it was, they would put those documents out.
Yeah, well, they have something out today. There's some fucking email that John Durham was like, I think it's a fake email because I think the Russians did something with it. But anyway, it's this email that's cooked up that says someone's like, I know that Hillary Clinton's going to work with the FBI to cook up Russiagate with Trump and Russia.
Once again, a scandal not announced, an FBI investigation not announced before the election, when it would have been very impactful to announce it. Instead,
Hillary Clinton
the FBI director announced the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails 3 weeks before the election.
Yeah, that was part of their deal. Let's work together to get Trump, but also I'm gonna turn on you right before the election and help elect Trump. So I guess the FBI is filled with a bunch of double, triple agents. I don't know. It's hard to follow. I know that Fox and MAGA media are all over this story. It doesn't seem to be getting a lot of traction. Barack Obama is still roaming free. Has not been arrested yet. What's going on, Dan?
It's really interesting. Like, theoretically, MAGA media and Fox are all over this, but they really aren't in a real way.
Their hearts aren't in it.
Their hearts aren't in it. It is not getting attention. It's one of the first times Trump has decided he has brought to bear all the forces. He literally had the intelligence community cook up a fake document and sent
to accuse his predecessor of treason
and is
punishable by death.
He sent he sent Tulsi Gabbard to the White House briefing, all these places, and he can't get traction. So
he posted a picture of Obama as OJ driving the white Bronco with all the police following him, including the bald JD Vance meme in one of the cars.
I mean, that's bonus there. There's the AI video of Obama getting arrested in the Oval Office with Trump. There's
a classic. Who can forget? There's
the people in prison jumpsuits, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of all of our former coworkers.
He's tried all that. The shady bunch, yeah.
But so if Trump really wants to make something a thing, like he can't always get the traditional media to cover it. He can't always make it like really break through, but he has in the past been able to get MAGA right-wing media to do his bidding. So Resonate, which is an organization that tracks which stories are trending online, they have a Substack newsletter called What's Resonating. And so they looked at this for Wednesday of this week. And so they track what neutral accounts are doing, left-leaning accounts and right-leaning accounts are doing. This is across all the platforms. Mm-hmm. And more right-leaning accounts on Wednesday were posting about Sydney Sweeney than Barack Obama. Like it's not working. This is a true fail from the Trump messaging machine.
What did she do to commit treason?
John,
was she part of the Durham investigation as well?
We don't have the time.
Oh, did she kill Jeffrey Epstein?
We can't prove she didn't. Yeah. Someone should ask her where she was on that night. And was she the orange blob spotted in the CBS video?
No, because we know she's wearing jeans. Good jeans, too. Yes. Good jeans.
Yes, I did turn on. I did open up Twitter, and it was like trending. American Eagle, Sydney Sweeney, Nazis. I was like, close.
Look, we talked about it on Offline this week.
I can't wait to listen.
And I'm pretty happy about it. Anyway, lest you think all this conspiracy mongering is causing the White House to take its eye off the ball, fear not. The Trump administration announced this week that they'll pay off your student loans and give you a $50,000 signing bonus if you're willing to mask up and join Stephen Miller's secret police force. ICE has launched a major recruitment campaign called Defend the Homeland to hire the 10,000 additional agents they'll need to hit Miller's goal of 3,000 arrests per day and 1 million deportations this year. One of the ads features the famous picture of Uncle Sam pointing with the tagline, "America has been invaded by criminals and predators. We need you to get them out. So, question for you. What kind of qualified rule of law lovers do you think are going to sign up for this one? You think we're going to get a great force of just highly qualified Americans who are interested in law enforcement and doing everything by the book to help protect the homeland? Do you think that's what we're going to get?
Well, I would say that over the last 6 months, Trump, Elon Musk, Stephen Miller have really shown the world the benefits, the stability of government employment. It seems like a very attractive place to work where once you get started, you can build a career there without having someone come in and just fire you for no reason. So I imagine this will be the best and the brightest.
I mean, this is really, as we can joke about, but it's fucking dark. And it's one of the things I worry about the most of everything, because ICE has been bad enough in these last 6 months. ICE, which doesn't have anywhere near the standards, hiring standards of local police departments, let alone the FBI. And they don't have the same kind of training, rigorous training that you go through. So you can be pretty unqualified, and who knows what kind of political views you might have. You might have been at the Capitol on January 6th.
I'm sure that's a plus, probably.
You might have been part of. We don't know who's doing the background checks, right? Was this administration is going to do a rigorous background check on these people, who are now being told that there's an army of illegal migrants that have invaded the country, and they're all the worst of the worst, and they're criminals and child molesters and all this kind. And you know what? You just come to ICE. We'll give you $50,000 signing bonus right off the bat. We'll pay off your student loans. Here's a gun. Here's a mask. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, the authoritarian leading president of the United States building a massive, unaccountable police force loyal to him, that has some historical echoes that we don't really like.
It's really bad, and I don't even I don't know what Democrats even do about this. I do think that's one area where we make it to the midterms and you launch a lot of investigations into what the Department of Homeland Security is doing and ICE is doing and who they're hiring, and to the extent that we can learn that between now and the midterms, I think that's important too, because I think they're going to hire some really bad people. And I think that everything we have been seeing on social media, all the videos we've been seeing of ICE becoming violent, and especially with not just undocumented immigrants, not just people with criminal records, but legal residents, American citizens, protesters, I think it's going to get much worse.
Yeah, I think Democrats should not be afraid, when we have power again, to use cutting ICE funding as a point of leverage in negotiations.
Yes, 100%. Meanwhile, one of Miller's comrades in the war on immigrants and the rule of law, Trump lawyer turned DOJ hatchet man Emil Bove, got his lifetime appointment to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. He was confirmed by the Senate this week after lying to Congress, telling DOJ officials that if judges wouldn't let them disappear people to a foreign gulag without due process, they might have to tell the courts to fuck off. Not one, not two, 3 whistleblowers came forward about this guy. Not libs, not deep staters, not just regular conservatives, like Trump people, Trump administration people in DOJ came forward to say that this guy doesn't want to follow the law. He didn't want to follow the law with when the judge ordered the plane to be turned around that was going to El Salvador. He also was instrumental in dropping the charges for Eric Adams in exchange for Eric Adams just doing the bidding of the Trump administration. He was instrumental in firing all of the prosecutors who prosecuted the January 6th defendants. He did all these things. He has had numerous complaints about him even before he was working for Trump, as far back as 2018. People saying he was abusive to staff, that he was corrupt, all this kind of shit. And fucking only Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins voted against him. Tom Tillis, Mitch McConnell, all the rest of them, thumbs up for this guy. Lifetime appointment.
In general, over the course of time, presidents get their judicial nominees through. But periodically there are people who are so unqualified, so corrupt, so unfit that members of the president's party will reject them. Just some of them, right? Or the person will not get out of committee and they'll be forced to drop out. This is evidence that the entire confirmation system is a joke in this Republican Party. They do not care about anything other than Trump put that person's name forward. They have no respect for themselves. They have no respect for the institution. They have no respect for the judiciary. They have no respect for their constituents. It is just Donald Trump said jump, so we just said how high. It's truly embarrassing.
This one I really don't understand for people like McConnell and Tillis who have nothing to lose. They're retiring. They're not even running for office again. And Emile Bove is not like, even if it was a Brett Kavanaugh, an Amy Coney Barrett, a Neil Gorsuch, right? You could say, okay, these are nominations where these people are genuinely right-wing conservatives and like what they stand for and like their judicial philosophy, and it happens to align with what Trump wants, so that's why they're voting for them, right? Emile Bove, he's just a Trump hatchet man, nothing else. He doesn't have judicial philosophy, he doesn't have opinions that he's written, nothing. And it's not like, oh, you're starting off as a federal judge, right to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. He could go right from there to the Supreme Court. Just a loyalist to Trump, no judicial philosophy whatsoever. And they're like, thumbs up? It's fucking crazy.
Well, it's actually, I think for the two of them, it actually fits with their behavior. Tom Tillis had one moment of courage on Medicaid. He also is the person who introduced Kash Patel at his confirmation hearing. No one has done more to corrupt the judiciary in American history than Mitch McConnell.
Man.
So this is very much, like, I know Mitch McConnell's anti-Trump, and some people have some hopes that maybe he'll do the right thing periodically. And he theoretically does not have the political pressure of people like a Susan Collins or other Republicans who may be up. But this is very much on brand for Mitch McConnell.
Let's check in on the Republican attempts to steal the midterm elections. This week, Texas legislators dropped their new gerrymander of the state's congressional map, a proposal that would create 5 new House districts that Trump won by 10 points or more in 2024. This would potentially hand Republicans the 5 extra House seats Trump asked for by packing Democratic voters into urban districts and creating a bunch of new seats that wouldn't have an incumbent, but be in very red districts that Trump won. Hakeem Jeffries flew to Texas to huddle with state Democrats to see what they can do to fight back. Gavin Newsom said he's ready to push forward with a redraw in California if Texas goes through with it. J.B. Pritzker and Kathy Hochul have threatened to do the same in Illinois and New York. Ron DeSantis says he may do the same in Florida, saying the 2020 census was, quote, flawed. Lots of contingencies. Can you walk us through what you think is most likely to happen here?
Well, Texas is moving forward. I think Democrats can and should do everything they possibly can to stop them. When I talked to Congressman Kassar a couple weeks ago, he talked about the importance of it. I've heard Beto talk about the importance of delay. Maybe the members flee, the legislators, Democratic legislators flee the state so they can't get a quorum. We should try to make this as politically painful for them as possible, but they have the votes to do it, and and Trump very much wants them to do it. California, it's complicated, but Gavin Newsom has a plan. I fully expect him to proceed. Illinois, somewhat complicated. New York, very complicated. And New York is limited in what they can do. And it seems, based on some analysis I've seen, that absent everything working the right way, it's unlikely that New York would have new maps in place by 2026. Florida, I imagine, will do whatever. Theirs is also somewhat complicated because of the role the Florida Supreme Court plays. So that may be a little bit of bluster because they were limited in how much they could gerrymander in this last time around. But Democrats are doing the right things, right? Like, we need a strategy of mutually assured destruction. They do this, we'll do it. Republicans just have more opportunities because they have more states where they control the legislature and the governorship. And there has not been a ballot initiative, constitutional amendment, or something else passed that limits the ability of Democrats to do a mid-decade redistricting or do something that a partisan redistricting. So it's very challenging.
This is what worries me in the end, because it's like, you're right. For California, we've talked about this with Newsom. We have to get a ballot initiative and hold like a special election, or he can try to just do it and see what the courts say. Illinois, I think he can do it. Pritzker can do it, but it's going to be hard to draw, I guess, to squeeze a few more seats out of Illinois.
Yeah. They went through this 2 years ago or whatever. 2 years ago? 2021 they went through this.
And the reason you're not hearing about a lot more states is because there just aren't as many states where Democrats have full control over the state legislature, and there's more seats to squeeze out, and are able to do it because of that there's not some constitutional amendment or law or whatever else or nonpartisan district commission set up that prevents them from doing it. So I am glad Democrats are fighting back too. People should be aware that it's a very hard fight. to pick, and I'm glad they're doing it. But like, I don't, unclear if it's going to work.
Can I just make one point here that I think is, I don't want to say it's optimistic, but Republicans in Texas are making a very big bet that Trump's numbers with Latinos in 2024 is the new norm.
Yeah.
And there is really no evidence to support that. I'm going to give you two examples. So nationally, in 2024, Democrats won 54% of the Latino vote. In the midterms in 2022, we won 62%. Now, here's a stunning number for you. According to exit polls, so take that for what it was, but these are exit polls in Texas. In 2024, Trump won the Latino vote by 11 points in Texas. In 2022, when Beto O'Rourke was losing by 11 points to Greg Abbott, he won the Latino vote by 17 points.
Oh, wow.
And Abbott won because he won the white vote by 33 points. But
right.
So there is probably they've obviously thought about this, but if the Latino vote shifts back to where it was before 2020, the Republicans are about to create a bunch of really competitive seats and put themselves in great risk.
Yeah, I think there's of the 5 new seats, a couple Trump won by 15 or more. Yeah. But then a couple he only won by 10 or more, only 10. But if you're talking about numbers like you just did, and they're heavily Latino districts, then who knows? Yeah,
and given demographics, the percentage of the district that is Latino is going to grow over time.
Right.
And so they could have real troubles in midterms when the midterm Latino electorate, at least in the limited sample size we have where Trump is president, looks very different than when Trump's on the ballot.
Okay. Last thing before we get to Tommy's interview with Jason Crow, Kamala Harris announced this week that she will not be running for governor of California after all. We don't know whether that means she'll be running for president in 2028. Her aides have told reporters that people should not read into her decision on the California governor's race anything about her plans for 2028. But then she also came out with an announcement after that saying that she's going to be devoting her attention to this.
Just over a year ago, I launched my campaign for President of the United States. 107 days, traveling the country, fighting for our future. The shortest presidential campaign in modern history. Since leaving office, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on those days, talking with my team, my family, my friends, and pulling my thoughts together. In essence, writing a journal that is this book, 107 days.
107 days. She's got a book. What's your guess on the book? Is this going to be an interesting book, or is it going to be a typical politician book?
Well, it was reported that she worked with, I don't know if this has been confirmed, but I read this online, a place where nothing's ever wrong, that she worked with Pulitzer Prize winning novelist Geraldine Brooks on it. I think it's just very interesting. As opposed to your typical, I do not mean this in a pejorative sense, John, your typical political speechwriter, ghostwriter, which is how these things usually happen.
Yeah.
So I think that's very interesting.
And guess what? Those books, boring.
I don't know, obviously don't know what she's going to do next. I would just say, this is a take a lot of people have had online. It's like, it was so stupid of her not to run for governor. It's like, I'm just going to guess that maybe she doesn't want to be governor.
I was like, good for her. It was my first reaction, because she has seemed from afar that ever since the election that she does not want to be governor of California. There were plenty of moments where, obviously we've been in the mix, the national news cycle.
It's been a big year for California.
We've been in Trump sites over the last 6 months. And, there's times where, she would put out statements and stuff like that. But I would think, okay, if she wants to be governor, you would imagine that she'd be out there speaking up about this. And I think, if she has decided, I don't want to be governor of California right now, and I want to write this book, and I want to do other things for a while, and I want to think about my future, then go for it.
I think that's right.
Do you think that what do you think she's thinking about 2028? Do you think she's genuinely just I'll wait and see? Because that could be too. People always think everything's calculated, but she could just be like, all right, I don't know yet.
I would say, like governor, she has done almost nothing. And maybe the book will kick it off, but she is not. The people who want to be president, right, or at least we believe are going to want to run for president, are out there doing things that make it very clear they want to be president.
Yeah.
They're going on the podcasts. We've got people traveling to New Hampshire already. We've got people traveling to Iowa, New Hampshire. And we don't even know what the map is going to be. And she has been very, very quiet, which is her right?
Yeah.
She gets to choose what she wants to do. But if she knew she wanted to run for president, there are a lot of moments that have happened over the last 6 months that she could have used as a big word. She is the biggest voice in the party other than President Obama right now. Right? If she went out, maybe even actually would probably get more attention if she went out and did something right now than Obama, because she has been so quiet since the election. And so I think I get the sense that she's probably genuinely undecided, which is probably good.
Yeah.
Right? It was less than a year ago that it was basically a year ago now that she got thrown into this thing that she did not expect to do and then lost, and is like probably still processing that, which there's plenty of time to do that if she wants to run for president in 2028.
Yeah, I mean, we're recording this before we got any news about her appearance on Colbert Thursday
Maybe she
night.
announces, and this is going to look stupid.
I know, who knows? But so she, kicking off her public appearance with Colbert, and then I think the book comes out in September. So it'll be interesting to see, like, is the book tour, is she talking a lot about what happened in the campaign and the book? Is she talking about what's happening right now? Some of that will be, of course, dictated by the question she gets. But
how interesting is the book? I think
how interesting is the book? How much she says? What she has to say? We'll be able to read her intentions about the future pretty quickly when she starts talking. Okay, when we get back from the break, you'll hear Tommy's conversation with Congressman Jason Crow. 2 things before we get to that. In case you missed it, we're hosting our first ever Crooked Con this November. Crooked Con is a chance to join America's smartest organizers and least annoying politicians to strategize, debate, and commiserate about where we go from here. Hopefully up. We'll be in Washington, D.C. November 6th and 7th, starting with a Pod Save America live show at the Warner Theater on Thursday, November 6th. Then on Friday, November 7th, we'll be at the Wharf. The Wharf. Joined by some of the most influential names in politics for a full day of conversations, workshops, and live pods. We're going to be talking about messaging, strategy, organizing. Tickets are on sale now. Head to crookedcon.com for tickets, lineup announcements, and more. That's crookedcon.com. We have a limited amount of discounted tickets available. Use code Freedom and Content, one word, all caps. That's Freedom and Content. That's your discount code. In the meantime, we got a new episode of Polar Coaster with our own Dan Pfeiffer that just dropped. Dan, what'd you guys talk about this week?
This is going to shock you, John. So I'm glad you're sitting down for this.
Sydney Sweeney.
No, we recorded, I think, before this really blew up on the internet. We were talking about Jeffrey Epstein and the latest polling, why it's staying in the news. We got to talk a little bit about the politics around Trump pardoning a convicted sex trafficker's co-conspirator in exchange for favorable testimony. And we talked a lot about Roy Cooper announcing he's running for Senate in North Carolina, and what the Senate map, and a little bit about the Senate map's going to look like for 2026.
Sweet. Tune in, everyone. And if you're not a subscriber, subscribe at crooked.com/friends or through Apple Podcasts so you can get Dan's pod, you can get our Inside 2025 pod, terminally online, all kinds of other benefits. It's great. Ad-free episodes of Pod Save America and Pod Save the World and offline and Love It or Leave It. Subscribe. Come join us. It's a fun little community. We all chat. Pod Save America is brought to you by Chili Pad by Sleep Me. Let's be honest. If your sleep sucks, everything else sucks a little more. You can do all the right things, work out, intermittently fast, meditate with that app you never open. But if you're overheating in a bed like a rotisserie chicken, you're not doing yourself any favors. And get this, most people train harder than they recover. Sleep is when your muscles rebuild, your brain clears out the junk, and your body gets ready for tomorrow's chaos. But it's not just about how long you sleep. It's about how well. And surprise, science tells us temperature plays a big role. That's where Chili Pad by Sleep Me comes in. Chili Pad is a magical little device that cools your existing mattress so you can stop sleeping hotter than hell. Chili Pad isn't just about cooling, it's precision temperature control for better sleep and recovery. Set your ideal temperature anywhere from 55 to 115 degrees if you're a psycho, and get deeper sleep, better recovery, and improved sleep scores. Plus, it's smart, like nerdy smart. You can schedule your bed temp to change while you sleep, start at room temp, cool it down when you hit deep sleep, then gently warm up to wake up naturally. Already tracking your sleep? This is the part where you stop monitoring your bad sleep and actually start fixing it. And if you've ever had a passive-aggressive pillow fight over the thermostat, you know you have. Good news, dual zone control. One side cool, one side warm. Peace in the bedroom at last. I've had a Chili Pad by Sleep Me, and boy, does it work, and it feels so wonderful to lie down in a cool bed and wake up in a cool bed as well. Right. It's fantastic. It works. More deep sleep, actual energy in the morning. It's like coffee, but backward because you're doing the real work while you sleep. Visit sleep.me/crooked to get your chili pad and save up to $500 with code crooked. That's www.sleep.me/CROOKED. Free shipping, free returns, and a 30-night trial so you can test it out, dream big, and wake up better. Sleep cooler, recover faster, perform better.
Pod Save America is brought to you by Rocket Money. A lot of people aren't aware of how much they spend each month. Do you know how many subscriptions you pay for? What about how much you spend on takeout or delivery? It's probably more than you think, but there's an app designed to help you manage your money better, and it's called Rocket Money. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. Their dashboard lays out your total financial picture, including bill due dates and paydays, in a way that's easy to digest. You can even automatically create custom budgets based on your past spending. If you've got a goal you'd like to save for, Rocket Money can analyze your accounts to find the best time each month to put extra money aside. Get alerts if your bills increase in price, if there's unusual activity in your accounts, if you're close to going over budget, and even when you're doing a good job. Rocket Money's 5 million members have saved a total of $500 million in uncanceled subscriptions, with members saving up to $740 a year when they use all of the app's premium features. I told you, John, how Rocket Money helped me cancel a subscription service, a streaming service, which I won't mention, which I think was international, that we had signed up for in the pandemic to watch like 5 episodes of a thing and then just forgot existed. So,
and the great thing about it is you can keep using it again and again. Like I've used it before. I could probably use it again.
Damn right. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/crooked. Go today. That's rocketmoney.com/crooked. rocketmoney.com/crooked. Joining me now in studio, Congressman Jason Crow from Colorado. You're a decorated Army veteran, one of the Democrats in charge of recruits for the midterms. Good luck with that. Great to have you.
Thanks. Good to be here in the land of the cardboard straw. Thanks for having me back.
How's that treating
LA?
you?
Well, I mean, they don't taste good.
No.
But I appreciate the sentiment.
John Lovett's pretty radicalized against those things.
Yeah, I'm on the path to radicalization against the wooden fork and the plastic and the cardboard straw. It's not awesome.
There's a corn-based one that I think is a little better than the paper.
But don't those like dissolve and melt with hot liquids?
You gotta drink it fast, man. You gotta get that thing down.
It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah,
I want to sip it with leisure. I don't want to be forced to drink it fast.
I want like a ticking clock, like a 24 style. Get it done. Yeah. I just saw that the White House announced plans to construct a $200 million, 90,000 square foot ballroom as part of the East Wing of the White House, I guess so we can hold bigger parties.
Right.
Would you say that's a good use of money or a great use of money?
Yeah, just the best use of money, probably, right?
Can we doge it?
After kicking 12 million people off their health care, tripling the budget of ICE, opening up camps throughout the country, now we're going to do this, and we'll just add it onto the pile of, the $400 million Qatari jet, which of course Donald Trump
might be a billion.
Likely, yeah. Well, that's after we have to actually retrofit this thing and make it workable for Air Force One, so that Donald Trump can then keep it when he leaves the presidency.
What did you make of the story that the Pentagon might be shifting money from a program to, I believe, refurbish our nuclear missiles or nuclear stockpile to go towards retrofit or making this plane fit for being Air Force One? It might cost $1 billion?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to shift money from a lot of different pots right now. Pete Hegseth has no idea what's going on, right?
No.
You ask this man, and he's too busy in his vanity mirror and in the new gym that he's built in the Pentagon to really give a crap about what's happening with all this money. But, the whole thing is just... it's really beyond the pale, right? They are shifting money around for their culture war agendas, for their political grievances, and we're all the ones that suffer.
Yeah. I'm completely derailing my own list of questions, but it was, I'm sure you as someone who served in the military, you had access to war plans, classified information. Hegseth's suggestion early on that sending like the strike package, the coordinates for like where the military was going to hit in Yemen to take out the Houthi rebels via signal that was not classified information was really remarkable. It's like, I just can't imagine him walking around that building and looking at his coworkers with a straight face when they all just know he's lying.
Yeah. Well, he knows he's lying too. That's the biggest thing. And he does so without remorse, with a completely straight face. The man lies with complete ease, sits in front of Congress and does it, sits in front of the cameras and does it. And there's no accountability. That's the larger issue here, is that he knows he can do it because there will be no accountability for it, right? And what's worse is, Pete Hegseth and I actually come from similar backgrounds, right? We were both infantry officers, infantry lieutenants. We led infantry platoons overseas. So, presumably we were exposed to the same leadership challenges and the same, leadership development. And what I learned when I was in the military is servant leadership is the basis of your leadership. It doesn't matter really what you say. It matters more what you do, the example that you set, right? When I was a paratrooper, you jump out of the plane first, right? The commander jumps out first, and then the soldiers follow. When food comes, the other soldiers eat first. The junior folks eat first, and then if there's any left over, then you eat, right? You suffer the most, and you give the benefits to the people underneath you. That's completely put on its head with this administration. No accountability at the top. Do as I say, not as I do, and it's corrosive to the culture of the entire organization.
And look, these organizations, they're made up of people, right? We're all fallible. We all make mistakes and lie sometimes, and people get in trouble. But the values that are seen as most important within the military are honesty, candor, accountability, like you just said. And I just wonder what you think the impact is to, the rank and file, but also the senior leadership that he works with day to day at the Pentagon, for them to have to look this man in the eye that they just know is completely full of shit.
Well, there's a leadership impact, and that's that corrosive message to the culture. Like, you can't be the leader of an organization and act like this and not have it impact, the ethos of the people that are serving under you. It just does. It has an impact, right? So that's one. But then there's actually the practical effect operationally of this. The man does not know what he's doing. Right. The majority of his leadership at the Pentagon have resigned in protest to his lack of leadership.
And he lied about them.
Right. And he said that they were disgruntled employees. I'm like, you hired them 6 weeks ago, right? You are disgruntling people at an unbelievable pace, right? And you can't run an organization of over 2 million people that day in and day out conducts hundreds of extremely risky operations, that is dealing with our adversaries around the world, that daily are doing things to put our soldiers and Americans at risk. You can't run an organization of that complexity with such cavalier and sloppiness and not eventually have something really bad happen. Yeah. And that's what I'm worried about the most right now.
Yeah, me too. Okay, so like I said at the top, you are co-chair for recruitment at the DCCC, the campaign arm for the Democrats. How's it going? And how does there's a recruitment or the redistricting push happening in Texas, maybe a retaliation in California. There's other states kind of talking about that. How does that impact your job?
Yeah. Well, I'm worried about this redistricting, right? I mean, they for a long time are saying the quiet part out loud now, Trump and the Republicans, they just don't care. They're just doing whatever they want to do to consolidate power, and it's certainly going to make our job harder. But our recruitment is going very well. My job, among others, is to go out and find those candidates to flip seats, right? And I always try to explain to folks the task of flipping a seat is a unique political challenge. I flipped a seat in 2018. I'm the first Democrat ever to hold my seat in Congress, actually. It was 40 years of Republican seat. And when you're trying to convince people to change their minds, to switch their vote, and to go Republican to Democrat in this environment, and it's gotten worse since I was first elected in 2018, that is an extremely hard thing to do. So there's no factor that's more important than the quality of the candidate.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, you can have, all the time people are like, who is the main leader of the Democratic Party? What is our slogan? What's our bumper sticker? What's our unifying message? All important things, and all things that we have to refine. And I'm happy to talk about that process as well. But in these districts, these 35 targeted seats that we've targeted at this point, what you're trying to do is convince somebody who voted for Donald Trump or who voted for a Republican who supports Donald Trump to change their vote.
Right.
And what you're getting is, a woman or a man who is deeply rooted in that community, who has an independent streak, who's trusted by people, who has a great bio, usually outside of politics, right? Because they're being voted to be a change maker, not to perpetuate the system, right? So it's not a lot of people with political experience. That's who we're looking for. That's the tried and tested formula. But it actually takes some work, right? Because I'm having to go and sit in front of these folks and be like, I have a great deal for you. I want you to leave your thriving business.
Make less money. They're going to trash your family.
Leave your kids half the time. And people are going to say terrible things about you. There's going to be tens of millions of dollars of ads that lie about you. What do you say? Right. So
it's got to be tough.
It's just kind of the job. Well,
I imagine you're like a college football coach going into a living room. You're like a Coach O from LSU and you're trying to recruit him. Is it kind of like that?
It is kind of like that, right? I mean, but first of all, I'm just honest, right? I'm not trying to feed people bullshit, right? I'm just not. I'm honest with them because I'm not doing anybody any favors if I'm not honest about how challenging these races and how tough it is to be in politics right now. But, the appeal is pretty simple, actually. I say how hard it's going to be. I say how excruciating it's going to be. I talk about the impact on everybody around them. And then I say, you know what? Your country needs you. We right now are at one of the inflection points. There have been just a handful of them that will absolutely determine the future of this country. And none of us wanted to live in this moment. None of us woke up saying, I want to be in a moment of political extremism where what happens is going to determine the course of the country, where our, the very foundations of our democracy are at risk. No, we didn't ask for it, but we are here, and your country needs you, A, and B, is I'm not asking for a lifetime commitment.
Right.
I'm asking for a minimum of a couple of years of your life. And after those couple of years, you say this is not for you, or if it's not working out, you can go back and do what you're doing. But right now, we need you.
It's a pretty good pitch.
I think so.
I'll take it. I'm a cornerback. I'm feeling like I might be a Democrat or never mind. So the House went into recess early because Speaker Johnson was so worried about a vote on releasing the Epstein files. Can you help listeners understand how weird that is, what happened, and won't they just have to deal with this problem in like 5 or 6 weeks when you get back?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what happened, actually, is we were supposed to be in session to the end of the week last week, and Johnson knew that there was going to be a vote forced on releasing the files. He knew Republicans were going to vote for it. There'd be a bipartisan vote, and they would lose it. He knew that Donald Trump absolutely do not want these files released. So he sent us home. He literally recessed Congress and sent us home instead of actually holding this vote, which is pretty telling. I mean, it is crazy. I would like to say, though, that that's surprising, but the things that I have seen in my 6 years, 6.5 years now in Congress, this Congress and prior Congresses, but Republicans in particular do, it's pretty unbelievable stuff.
I've gone from feeling like the conspiracy was hiding in plain sight with Jeffrey Epstein, that he was a rich, well-connected, terrible, pedophile, awful human being who uses connections to get away with doing evil things, to, over the last month, watching Trump try to shut down conversations about Epstein, to, learning about all the factual discrepancies in the administration's story, the video missing a minute. Like I'm completely red-pilled on this thing now. And I'm just like wondering.
Well, watching the mega world's head explode.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute. Like, whose side are we supposed to be on here right now?
Minecraft head just like exploding off. How do you make sense of this last month?
Well, let's not. I think it's important that we not lose sight of the actual substance of this, that you had a longtime sexual predator that was preying on women and girls, and that there have presumably been hundreds of perpetrators and accomplices that have not been brought to justice.
DOJ said 1,000 victims in that memo.
Yeah, hundreds. Maybe over, God knows how many accomplices, right?
Right, shocking.
So that in and of itself it should be enough for anybody to say, let's release the files and let's have justice, right? It's never too late to name the names and to call people out. That's really important. That's the most important thing. And then on top of that, you have the corruption and yet another cover-up by this administration, right, that doesn't want to be transparent, that's clearly hiding something. I mean, Donald Trump's, constant True Social posts trying to get us to move on are damn telling.
Yeah, not going so well either.
No, it's not.
On Wednesday of this week, 27 Senate Democrats voted to cut off weapons shipments to Israel. That is a reaction to the horrific images we've seen recently out of Gaza, starved to death children, emaciated children, just massive crowds of people just desperately trying to get food. And so that vote tally, 27 Democrats voting to cut off weapons to Israel, that's unimaginable 4 or 5 years ago. Like Ben Rhodes and I did this event with J Street in 2019, did a bunch of the presidential candidates. We tried to get them all to commit to conditioning aid if it were to be used, U.S. military aid, if it were to be used in the West Bank. And we basically only got like Bernie on board with that. And now, there you see this vote. It's obviously not enough, right? It's not going to stop these weapon shipments. But are you seeing a similar political shift in the House? And how are you thinking about whether we should cut off or condition military aid to Israel around the war?
You can't look at those images and see what's happening, not just in the last couple of weeks, but for, a year plus now. The starving children, the sheer desperation of the folks in Gaza, in the settler violence in the West Bank too. Let's not forget about that and how terrible that is, and that there was just a Palestinian killed a couple of days ago by a settler in the West Bank, and say that this is horrible stuff, and that it doesn't need to happen, right? And that's not mutually exclusive from also saying that Hamas is a terrible organization and a terrible terrorist organization and needs to be destroyed, because I also believe that, right? But my own experience at war. I went to war 3 times for this country, 3 times in Iraq and Afghanistan. And I was in the position of leading troops in combat where there were civilians everywhere, right? Where I had to go after our adversary, the insurgents, but there were civilians all around us. And we constantly had to make decisions about whether to engage or not engage, or how to target and to avoid the collateral damage, to avoid killing civilians. And that is why I was one of the founding members of the Protection of Civilians in Conflict Caucus. And I have focused a lot of my efforts on protecting civilians. And that is why I know that it didn't have to be this way, right? You didn't have to choose between security and going after Hamas and protecting civilians and ensuring that tens of thousands haven't died. There was a better way. And that's why I pushed the Biden administration, to actually just uphold our own standards. Right? Our standards are pretty clear. We have a conventional arms transfer policy. We had something called NSM 20, National Security Memorandum 20, which is the way that we actually enforced the conventional arms transfer policy. And I led efforts to say, do the analysis, apply the facts to our own laws and standards, and then make the determination. They unfortunately never went through that process and did that, because my belief is, let's just apply our own standards like we would to any ally, like we would to ourselves. Hold others to the same standards that we hold ourselves to. So that ship has sailed, or it did under the Biden administration. Right now, what needs to happen is a massive surge of humanitarian aid to Gaza. The distribution system has failed terribly in every way. That system needs to be completely revamped. The UN and independent aid organizations need to be put in charge, because they know how to do this. And there needs to be a massive surge of aid.
But I totally agree with that. But I think then there's a concern that there might be this surge of aid, and then Netanyahu will continue the war for political purposes, because he has this right-wing part of his coalition that has basically said, we'll dissolve the government if you don't continue the war in perpetuity or adopt the Trump plan, which is the full ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip, and then the Israelis taking control. So I think there is a hope among a lot of Democrats, like cards on the table, myself included, that this might be a moment where the United States government, hopefully led by the Democratic Party, although I understand that we're not in power anywhere, will try to push Netanyahu to permanently end the war, or try to force it. And I think a lot of people think that a broad support for cutting off weapons shipments is part of that.
Yeah. Netanyahu is not going to end this on his own. He just won't, as you pointed out. Right? Netanyahu hasn't even pushed hard and done what's necessary to get the release of the hostages. And he has repeatedly throughout history undermined opportunities to achieve peace and to dismantle Hamas. Let's not forget that years ago, he was actually the one that helped facilitate and prompt up what became the foundation for Hamas, right? So he's not going to do that on his own. He's only going to do that if there is, external pressure from this administration, and that's why, people speaking up. That's why Republicans too, right? I mean, Donald Trump probably doesn't care that much what we have to say, to be honest with you. but that's why Republicans and others who are starting to wake up to this, some of them are.
Marjorie Taylor Greene referred to it as a genocide.
There are people who are
pushing votes to cut off aid. And I don't agree with her on anything, but I think she has spoken pretty movingly and compellingly about her desire to get out of conflicts overseas.
When you are trying to build a coalition, when you are trying to increase support for something, it's not enough just to double down on language and on things that people who already agree with you like and agree with, right? We have to be willing to broaden our aperture here and pull other people into the coalition who know that this is not going the right way and this doesn't serve anyone's interests. It doesn't serve Israel's long-term interest. It doesn't serve the Palestinian interest, and it's certainly not going to deliver a two-state solution. Not even starting on the path towards a two-state solution. And the only way to do that is if we broaden our coalition and pull people in who we may not agree with all the time on all issues, but we have to be willing to do it.
Also, I'm sort of hoping there's going to be a structural change around this issue or just the way that we're thinking about it. For example, a lot of Democrats, myself included, Ben Rhodes, who you know well, have said Democrats should stop taking money from AIPAC. And that is in part because I think their policy on Gaza has been indefensible, but also because you see AIPAC saying some pretty disgraceful things. The Twitter account accused Bernie Sanders of blood libel. The 80-year-old Jewish man, his family died in the Holocaust, of blood libel for raising concern about the starvation of civilians in Gaza. Do you think Democrats should stop taking money from AIPAC?
I think people should be pushed on their policies, right? You should look hard at what they have said about this issue and whether or not they want to show leadership on the humanitarian crisis, whether they have a track record of pushing for a two-state solution and making sure that Palestinians have the right to dignity and a future just like the Israelis do, right? And that is the ultimate goal, and that's where we need to be. And people need to be pressured for that. And people need to hear from their constituents on that.
Yeah, I think my concern is AIPAC is doing counter pressure, right? I mean, they are basically endorsing Republicans. They're intervening in Democratic primaries and taking out progressives, and it just feels like they're supporting January 6th truthers. It just seems like that it's an organization that is not democratic in nature right now. But
I think that people need to feel pressure from their constituents to do the right thing here and to push back. More than any other organization, regardless of what that organization is. And I don't agree with these organizations a lot and on all issues, but they need to feel the pressure on the specific crisis that we have right now, and they need to be pushed.
Next month is the 4-year anniversary of the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. I know Republicans have made this a push to revisit the final stages of the withdrawal, but that's about it. I think looking back and knowing that you've served in multiple theaters, do you think that we are doing the right kind of accounting of the mistakes we've made since 9/11 and the war on terror, or even asking the right questions?
I think we are undoubtedly going through that process. And this is something that a lot of people don't know, is that I helped create, along with Tammy Duckworth and others, an Afghanistan War Commission, which has been a multi-year process. It's going to wrap up in another year and a half, but is going to do a comprehensive look. It's very similar to the 9/11 Commission, actually. They are doing a comprehensive look of every facet of this war. They're looking back over the 20-year history, every administration, Republican and Democrat, every Congress, Republican and Democrat, the civilian leadership, the military leadership, and looking at all of the missteps, all of the missed opportunities, and what went wrong every step of the way.
Because interviews, how does that work? What do you guys talking to the generals who are in charge of various?
Yeah, well, this is an independent, congressionally created commission. So it's it's not members of Congress that are serving.
Sorry, I mean the commission, right?
The commissioners.
Talking to the guy running RC East.
They're doing hundreds of interviews, civilian leadership, military leadership. They're doing hearings around the country because ultimately, I mean, this is something that I feel very passionate about. We spent 20 years, trillions of dollars, thousands of lost lives, tens of thousands of lost Afghan lives. Lost credibility, and it ended poorly by every metric. So we just can't do this again. We can't. And what we need to know is, why did it happen? What were the missed opportunities? And again, I will say this happened under just as many Democratic administrations as Republican ones, and just as many Democrat-controlled Congresses as Republican ones. And I actually believe one of the biggest problems behind both Iraq and Afghanistan is the fact that Congress gave up its authority. We have stepped out of our congressionally mandated war powers authority, and we have written a blank check to administration after administration through these authorizations for use of military force, these AUMFs, that basically have allowed president after president to continue military operations in dozens of different countries now without any more debate, without any more votes, and largely financed by additional debt.
Is there any way to require that an AUMF sunsets every year or has to be reauthorized or just something? Because you're right. Look, in Hand Up, worked for Barack Obama.
Yeah.
We surged troops in Afghanistan. That's something that, with the benefit of hindsight, I think was a mistake. I think that it's fair to say that the AUMF was stretched and strained beyond all recognition to justify, bombing places where it's impossible to argue that Al-Qaeda proper was there, right? As some sort of affiliate group.
Right. These affiliate organizations is the language, right? Like they name groups in the AUMF and then they're like affiliates.
Right, it's like a
so as they
spin-off.
morph, I mean, the idea behind it is understandable, right? They don't want a group just to change its name and rebrand and then not being able to target it. But it has really been abused to like spin off and be used in pretty abstract ways. Right. And I actually believe in sunsets. This is actually a key component of this debate. And I'm on that side of the debate, that no Congress should be able to debate and then take a vote and then wash its hands of it. Right. There has to be a sunset where both the administration is forced to come back and make the case, and Congress has to be held accountable. Right. You have to have more votes and more debate, because until that happens, where's the pressure?
Right.
Where's the pressure to end it, right? And the best way to have accountability is through members of Congress, because we are, weekly going home and we're holding town halls and auditoriums and Rotary clubs, and we have to stand in front of people and say, yeah, your taxpayer dollars, your sons and daughters should be going off and fighting this war and conflict, and here's why. And if we can't make that case, then we shouldn't be taking the vote.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so frustrating. I mean, just seeing how much inertia there is and how much easier it is to bomb a place, start a war, perpetuate a conflict, than, get votes on the JCPOA, the Iran nuclear agreement, which was an attempt to solve problems diplomatically. And I'm really glad you guys are doing this review of sort of what happened in Afghanistan, but there's also kind of just a political problem or incentive structure problem that I don't know how to solve in the United States to try to keep us out of these conflicts.
Well, this is where you're seeing a little bit of a convergence of, the right and left, if you will, right?
Sure.
Where people are like, no, why are we going to do another war in the Middle East? Why are we spending trillions of dollars? Why? And this is a damn good question, because our track record is not really good, right? You just can't point to these and be like, oh, we're having great success here. We're not, right? And that actually should be pretty telling. Right. And we get pulled into these quagmires. And then on the flip side, Ukraine, which is actually doing its own fighting and is doing a remarkable job, we're not supporting them in the way that we should. So the incentive structures in the politics, to your point, are completely out of whack on this.
Yeah. I know last Sunday you were denied entry trying to get into an ICE detention facility in Aurora. And I believe it's a facility you've been visiting repeatedly since like 2019?
Since 2019, yeah.
I think you guys filed suit yesterday against the Trump administration alleging that ICE officials violated federal law by turning you away. Can you just sort of tell us about what happened and what should have happened and where the lawsuit stands?
Yeah, so I mean, this is something, as you point out, I've been doing for over 6 years now. So when I first came in as a member of Congress in 2019, this ICE detention center is in my district, in the center of my district, about a mile from where I live. And we immediately started to get reports of disease outbreaks and abuses and problems at this facility. So I literally just showed up. Right? I did an unannounced visit in February of 19 and said, hey, I'm a member of Congress. I'm here to do an inspection. They turned me away. So it took numerous attempts before they finally let me in. My team and I looked at the law and they're like, well, there's no actual law that requires us to have access. So we actually worked with members and we pushed and we passed a law. So we created this law that now says members of Congress have to be provided immediate access to any facility that's run by the DHS that receives congressional funding. So any federal money that flows through DHS that detains migrants. And it doesn't matter whether that's ICE, CBP, HHS. Those are the three agencies that run facilities of various types. And that it doesn't need to be announced. It can be unannounced visits. Because that's actually really important in oversight, right? You don't want to show up and
it's all spiffied up.
It's all spiffy. It's Lysol and fresh paint and the dog and pony show, right? You need to get a real look and you need to see what's actually happening. So we passed this law. It's been on the books for years. I've continued to do oversight. I visited this facility at least 9 times. My staff has been dozens of times. So I show up a couple of weeks ago and they say no.
Who's they?
In this case, it was ICE.
Like the person who runs the facility or something?
Yeah, well, GEO, so this is a privately run detention center.
Great.
And there's no distinction in the law between private and not private. In this case, this is run by the GEO Corporation, which runs all sorts of these facilities around the country. And as a separate issue, I've actually been pushing for years, along with Pramila Jayapal and others, to end the private for-profit detention system. Because it's just gross and perverse.
Crazy,
that there's a profit motivation to incarceration.
And more people longer is more money.
Yeah, I mean, you get all these abuses because it's a profit motivated system, right? And then you see all these companies and lobbying for the expansion of these. It's really just a really perverse system. So we've been trying to close these facilities overall. But notwithstanding, and that's actually another point of disagreement I have with the Biden administration, because they issued an order ending private detention centers for federal detention, but they exempted and carved out immigration detention facilities. So we battled them on that. We weren't successful. So these facilities still exist. So I was denied entry, which is a violation, just a straight up, very clear violation of the law. So yesterday we filed a lawsuit in federal court.
And what's the time frame on that resolving?
We don't know. I mean, we just filed it yesterday. There's 12 members total, all of whom were denied access to facilities around the country because this is, a feature, not a bug. My denial was not uncommon, unfortunately.
Right.
I mean, they are denying access. They are impeding oversight. They're obstructing all over the country repeatedly on a mass scale, actually, not just with visits, but all oversight. So we are asserting our rights to try to end this in this obstruction. And what they say is they've implemented a new policy, they being the Trump administration, that they've implemented a new policy that requires 7 days notice for a visit, which of course guts effective oversight.
It's not the law, right?
Right? And it's not the law, right? They can't just be like, nope, we're going to do something different, right? That's not how it works. Congress makes the laws. The president's supposed to follow it. They can't, by executive order or fiat or just their opinion, change it.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with that. Congressman Crow, thank you so much for coming in. And great to be here.
Tommy.
Great to have you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
That's our show for today. Thanks to Congressman Jason Crow for coming on. Tommy Lovett and I will be back with a new show on Tuesday.
Bye, everyone.